Hello, BookTube. Welcome to the continuation of my 2020 library tour, science fiction and fantasy edition. So this is going to be the third video, or the third shelf of my tour. I'm currently working my way through one of the shelving units I picked up, I picked up from Walmart about a year or so ago. So let's get started. First up is The Darkness That Comes Before by R. Scott Baker. I read this book, I want to say around 2010. Maybe a little bit later, maybe a little bit earlier. The first time I read it, I didn't quite get on with it. I bailed or set it aside, I think within the prologue. But then I came back to it a few months later, or maybe a year or so later, and read the whole book and really enjoyed it. Although, I've thought about it enough to want to have the book in my collection as well as the sequels. But as I'll mention in the next two books, I haven't actually gotten around to reading the sequels, which are The Warrior Prophet. Yikes. About to have some chaos. Which is book 2 of the Prince of Nothing series, or trilogy. And book 3, The Thousandfold Thought. Although, I guess maybe that could be a project. Well, a project I'm thinking of building to is reading a lot of these series that I've collected that I haven't gotten to or haven't finished yet, to try to read them this coming year. Next up is Sins of Empire, book 1 in the Gods of Blood and Power series. This is the sequel series to the Powder Mage trilogy, which I've never read. And I thought this book was okay, but I don't know necessarily if I want to. I've thought about picking up the Powder Mage trilogy and then collecting the rest of these, but I'm not entirely sure. It depends, I guess. You read. Oh, that's not working at all. Yowzers. Next is Barsk, the Elephant's Graveyard by Lawrence M. Schoen. This book is one of those books that have intrigued me ever since I first saw it about 3-4 years ago. And I finally picked it up maybe a year or so ago. And it's about a society of sentient animals. That basically the animals of Earth have all gained sentience and anthropomorphized enough to where they can create civilization. And there's some controversy about this planet, I think is what I remember. I really didn't like it all that much. I might give it another go, but I remember not really liking it. So next I have two books by Robert Jordan that are not The Wheel of Time. They're actually Conan. This is the Conan Chronicles. It includes Conan the Invincible, Conan the Defender, which I think I've read, and Conan the Unconquered, which I think I've read. I think I might have read all of these, now that I think about it. And I remember them being quite good. So in the early 80s, so thing about Conan. So Conan the Cimmerian, or more popularly known as Conan the Barbarian, was created by Robert E. Howard, who we will meet in a few days. Not this week, but later. Next week. In the early 30s. And about a decade or so later, pastiches began to be produced, or sort of continuations by L. Sprague de Camp and then Carter. And eventually in the 80s and into the early mid-90s, Tor got the rights to produce pastiches, Conan pastiche fiction. And so they hired a slew of writers to write new Conan novels of Conan's adventures, and Robert Jordan was one of these writers hired to do it. And he was actually one of the really good ones. I liked quite a bit of the Conan stuff from him that I've read. This is the Further Chronicles of Conan, and does not show what... Oh, here we go. Conan the Magnificent, Conan the Triumphant, and I think that's Conan the Valorous. No, Victorious. No, anyway. Well, one of these days I really should make a note to recollect, because I really enjoyed those Conan pastiche novels, although I was a teenager when I read them, so... There was, like, teenager tinted glasses or something. And I might be incredibly harsher now than I was when I was a teen, but there were quite a few of them that I really liked. I mean, I had gotten rid of them, and some of them I've recollected, and there are quite a few more I want to pick up eventually. Next is Fate of the Fallen by Kel Cade. This came out late last year, and it's about the hero's companion, the hero's sidekick, who must carry on the heroic epic quest when the prophesied hero is actually killed really early into the story. And I think the idea of carrying on after the death of the chosen one, or the prophesied hero, is a really good one. But I don't think Cade really accomplishes what she sets out. It's really very dull and kind of uneven. I mean, I remember this book being incredibly uneven. So, yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Next is Runebinder by Alex R. Kaler. This is the first book in the Runebinder Chronicles. It's a YA fantasy series about basically a magical post-apocalypse where demons and monsters roam the earth, and young wizards sort of fight them. And this is the story of one of these young wizards basically getting thrust into a sort of love triangle between an older, not quite that older, but I mean, fellow wizard and a hot demon dude. I didn't like it all that much. I thought the writing, it was standard YA fare, I think. But I think there were like directions Collar could have gone in that would have been, I think, more interested than what he eventually, where he went. Next is The Blinding Knife, Book 3 in the Lightbringer series by Brent Weeks. That is weird. Where did I get this from? Anyway, oh yeah, I haven't read the series yet. I have, I think the first 3 or 4 books, and I have like the series. I need to pick up. I think there's like 2 more I need to pick up to complete this series, even though I haven't actually read it yet. So probably should actually read it before I decide to buy the rest. Next is Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. This is one of his most famous series. I haven't gotten to it yet. As I've oft repeated, or it's maybe becoming a bit of a running gag on with me, I don't really get on with Brandon Sanderson all that well. Although maybe Mistborn might be the novel to like get me into him more, like liking his work. Obviously, I've tried the Way of Kings twice, and I haven't made much progress. And I also didn't particularly care for Steelheart, his YA superhero series. Dark Mondays, short story collection by Cage Baker. I mean, I liked quite a few of these stories, and some of these stories are not as good. I mean, it's a short story collection, so the quality of the stories are going to be varied and inconsistent, but I quite liked it on the whole. Next up is Runebreaker by Alex R. Kaler. This is the sequel to Runebinder. Haven't gotten around to it because I didn't particularly care for Runebinder, so yeah. In this case, I think another young wizard guy is basically being seduced by the demon from the first book who didn't win the guy from that book or something. Anyway, next is Snakewood by Adrian Selby. Picked this up, I think, late last year, and I really need to get to it. And then there is New Suns, original speculative fiction by people of color, edited by Nisi Shaw. Or Nisi Shaw. The Return of Sam Sykes with Tome of the Undergates. This is the first book of the Ian's Gate series. Picked this up about 4 years ago from Hastings. Hastings was a sort of general media store. It combined a bookstore, a comic book shop, video and movie videos. You could buy movie DVDs, video games. You could also rent from there, that sort of thing. It was a general entertainment store that ended up going out of business a little more than 4 years ago. And they had a basically a clearance sale where I picked this up, along with a few other books. And then there is Immoral by Charles Saunders. This is a really good sword and sorcery novel. Part of the sort of the sword and soul subgenre of sword and sorcery. Really, really good. I've enjoyed it. It's been a while since I've read it, though. I might come back to it. I really should get back to it. Next is The Mirror Empire by Cameron Hurley. I don't know if this is the first book or the second book in the series. Oh, okay. It's book 1 of the World Breaker Saga. I read this a few years ago, and I thought maybe it was a little too dark for me. But I might come back to it if I decide to pick up the third book in the series. Because I do have the second book in the series, Empire Ascendant. And these they're about basically the main setting being invaded by another reality. sort of basically like, say, the mirror universe from Star Trek invading the prime Star Trek universe. But I mean, the novels, they're really, really dark and very, very grotesque in a way. Yeah. So, anyway, I might come back to them. I've been thinking about getting back, like having another go at that series, but I don't know for sure. So, anyway, BookTube, that concludes Shelf 3. I'll be right back with Shelf 4 in a few seconds. I need to go put these books back up and get down the books from Shelf 4. So, anyway, BookTube, until I see you again, thank you, have a great afternoon, and stay safe.